Hello dear chess friends, I'm International Master Andrey Ostrovskiy and you're welcome to the series of lessons dedicated to King and Pawn Endgames. This lesson is dedicated to a very interesting topic which is called promotion races. So the situation when both sides have passed pawns is very common. So this situation requires very good calculation. So actually, you have to understand who wins the promotion race prior to even achieving such a position. But anyway, to feel comfortable in such a situation, you have to understand basic ideas behind this sort of positions. So sometimes the situation is very straightforward. Actually, who is faster wins. This first position that we're going to discuss is exactly of this kind. So white simply has no time for doing anything else but trying to promote his pawn b2 because, well, we can see that black has a pawn on the f file. It is f7 pawn that has no limits on the way. So to be faster, or at least to try to be faster, white has to promote the pawn which also has no limits on the way. It is b2 pawn, so no questions that white starts with a b4 move. So b4, black has nothing better than playing f5, b5, f4, b6, f3, b7, f2, b8 queen, f1 queen. So it was the first stage of the race. We can see that both sides queened simultaneously. Is it the sign that, well, it is a draw? Because we still have the equal material. Queen's endgames are typically very drawish ones because both sides have a lot of different checks and so on. Well, actually, no. No is the answer to the question. What is the result of this position? Is it a draw or not? So actually, you have to keep calculating to understand the result, the evaluation of this position, because sometimes you have a chance to continue with a series of checks or only one check that can change the situation completely. So in this particular case, white has a chance to exchange queens, which again leads to the king and pawn endgame. And after that, we again will have a pawn race. So queen goes to b5. This move should be considered 100% because, well, again, after this exchange, we have a very sharp situation that needs to be calculated accurately. And the promotion race. So this position is the first one that you have to memorize because, well, we have a typical situation with passed pawns on the A and H files. So in such a situation, the one who promotes first actually controls the square of the promotion for opponent's pawn. Let's have a look. King g4, a4, h5, a5, h4, a6, h3, a7, h2, a8 queen, and queen a8 controls h1 square, which ensures white's win. So let's imagine black's pawn anywhere but not on the h file. It will be probably a draw. Let's say pawn on the f file, then f1 queen, and, well, absolutely drawish position. But here white wins, controlling the promotion square of opponent's pawn. So after king g3, queen just blockades the pawn, and gradually white wins with the extra queen, simply getting closer with the own king. Let's have a look what happens if white tries to do something else but promoting the pawn in the initial position, but just to show you the importance of being fast in such a situation. So let's say instead of b4, white tries king to b4. At first glance, it looks very stupid because white wastes the time. In fact, this plan also has some interesting ideas behind. So actually, white wants to do what? To blockade opponent's pawn. And in this case, it might be possible just to promote the own, so to have the extra queen as a result. But in this particular case, unfortunately, this plan doesn't work. So after f5, king c3, f4, king d2, black of course doesn't play f3 but plays king to g4. So at some point it is important to forget about just promoting the pawn blindly and well, to see what is going on, and maybe it is necessary just to add the king to the process. So here king g4 is definitely the best move, because black wants to do what? Just to ensure the promotion of this pawn. Otherwise, white's king simply blockades the pawn. So here, if white still tries to blockade the pawn and plays king to e2, black has very important king g3 resource. Now black has a chance to play king g2 next move, after which pawn f4 promotes automatically without limits. So king f1 is necessary, and actually white achieved what he wanted, so white blockaded the pawn. But the problem is that king now occupies very ugly position. So now if one of black pawns promotes, it will be a promotion with check. So it is really annoying. h5, let's say b4, h4, b5, h3, and we can see the result. So if white just keeps moving the pawn towards the b8 square, then h2, h1 with check, and queen takes the pawn on b7. So king g1 is needed here, and at first glance, white is okay, just blockading the h pawn, but another pawn is here to help. So b6, h2, king goes here, f2, and the next move will be the promotion, and in this particular case, it leads to checkmate. So in case of king g4, doesn't help. So white actually has to start promoting his pawns. So for instance, b4, king g3, b5, f3, b6, f2, b7, f1, b8 queen, in which case it is a draw, most likely. If a4, then after king g3, a5, f3, a6, f2, a7, f1 queen, a8 queen, it is also probably a draw. So as we can see, at some point, white has to start the plan of promotion of his own pawns, which means that in this particular case, in this situation, the plan of stopping opponent's pawn just leads to nowhere. So white doesn't have real chances to stop that pawn, so that the best strategy is to be faster, to try to be faster, and to start promoting your own pawn. But it doesn't really work in each and every case. So let's have a look on other examples. In this one, straightforward promotion of the own pawn leads to nowhere. So if white starts with the f4, then after king to b5, very smart move. Appears that black is just in the square, so the king goes here, stopping the pawn, after which the best white has is a draw. So if white wants to try to win this position, to try to win the promotion race, maybe it makes sense to find a way of stopping black's king's maneuver, and white has a chance to do that. So white actually wins with a very good move, king to d4. So as I said during analysis of the previous example, it is not always the best strategy just to promote your pawn. Sometimes it makes sense to use your king, like here. So king d4, the point is that if black keeps playing this plan, king b5, then king goes to d5, simply creating a barrier on the way of the king. And after king a6, appears that white is just okay to start promoting his pawn. So f4, let's say king b7, f5, king goes to c7, king goes to e6. So again, there is a threat of just playing f6. King goes to d8, and king goes to f7. Well, black managed to force whites to occupy not very good position at first glance, because king limits the promotion of the own pawn, so just interferes with this plan. But black's king at the same time occupied an ugly position, so now it appears that white promotes with check. So b5, f6, b4, king g7, b3, f7, b2, and f8 queen check. And next move will be the move that will stop b2 pawn, so white wins with the extra queen. And that is the idea behind having the king on d4 in the initial position. So let's have a look what happens if black starts promoting his own pawn, because at first glance it looks like black just promotes simultaneously with white after b5. So in this case, f4, b4, f5, b3, and true, if white keeps promoting his pawn, it will be just a simultaneous promotion. So prior to promoting his own pawn, white has to make one more king move. So king goes to c3. A bit strange looking move, but white solves the main problem. So his pawn now promotes with check, because for black it is the only option to play king a3 if he wants to keep promoting his pawn. And now we can see that king occupies the same diagonal that will be occupied by white's queen after promotion of the f pawn. So f6, b2, f7, b1, black is first, but white promotes with check, and now appears that black pieces occupy very, very ugly positions. So let's say if king goes to a2, then after queen a8, it is already a checkmate. Very bad. If king goes to a4 instead, then king goes away from own queen, and after just two checks, queen a8 first, forcing the king to the b file, and then queen to b7. Next move will be just capturing the queen, and white easily wins. So, by the way, this trick with the king c3 is very common in this type of king and pawn endgames, with the promotion races, I mean. So you just waste the time at first glance, but in fact you force your opponent's king to a bad position that suits your promotion purposes. So you can promote your pawn with check. Sometimes, however, it is not that easy to use your king to force your opponent's king to a bad position. So sometimes the promotion race looks very, very tricky. So let's have a look on the other example that describes such a situation. So here both sides have two passed pawns on the board, and definitely it will be very hard for white to use the own king, because, well, this king probably will be busy with stopping opponent's passed pawns. So what to do? Anyway, white has to try to be faster, so white starts with the f5. Looks like it is the best strategy here. Why with the f pawn? Well, because only this pawn has a chance to be promoted with check. Let's have a look on the g3 idea. So let's say king e1, d4. I mean that black tries to promote own pawns, so to try to be faster than white. So in this case, f6, d3, f7, d2 check. King takes the pawn, g2. So at first glance, both promote simultaneously, but f8 and check. That is the point. So black has no chance now to play g1 and to equalize the situation, at least in the sense of pieces present on the board. So after f5, definitely black has no chance to promote his pawns faster than white, so it's necessary to stop the f pawn. So king goes to c5. Queen is actually here just to stop the pawn. So if white blindly keeps promoting his f pawn, then king d6, and this pawn simply drops. Of course, if white plays bad moves, it is possible to make a draw, but nothing better than a draw, of course. So f6 is not the best decision. But what to do? So after f5, king c5, well, true that king can't really help, because if king moves, then black starts promoting his own pawns. So what to do? To try to use another pawn, of course. So pawn goes to h5. At first glance, it is not that clear what white wants to achieve, because this pawn can't really promote with check, but let's see what is going on. So g3, and now king goes to e1. Very interesting move, just going away from the check from d pawn. So it is really a subtle moment, because king e2 doesn't lead to the best result for white. So after d4, f6, king goes to d6, h6, black plays d3 check, and after king takes d3, g2, and we can see that both promote simultaneously. That's the point. So after king e1, only after this move, white achieves what he wants. So let's see, d4, now f6. So there is a threat of promotion with check. So this stops black from promoting own pawns again and forces black to play king to d6. Now white plays with another pawn. It is h6 move. Okay, black plays g2. There is nothing better anyway. King goes to f2, d3. So now we can see that what black wants to do is to play d2, then g1 queen check, and then d1 queen check. But white is faster here. So f7, once again, stopping black from promoting own pawns and forcing king to e7. And now h7. And well, white is one move faster than black here. g1 queen, king takes, d2. Well, if h8, it's clear that, well, black plays d1 queen and then takes f7 pawn. But what white does is f8, finally forcing the king to the very bad position. King takes f8 and h8 queen with check. So here, as you can see, again, white's main idea was to force opponent king to a bad position, means to the square which allows white to promote his pawn with check. But for this purpose, white used another passed pawn, not the king, like in the previous example. But still, these ideas are the most common in this sort of endgames. I mean, the strategy of being faster, the strategy of using the king to limit opponent's king, to use the king to make this trick to force opponent's king to a bad position and promote with check, and actually to use another passed pawn to do the same, to force opponent's king to a bad position and to promote another pawn with check. Also, it is very important to not to break your calculation too early. So when you get to a position when both queens are already promoted, just try to calculate a bit deeper. Maybe you have some checks winning opponent's queen, or maybe you have a chance to exchange queens, which leads to the endgame, which is still winning for you, or something like that. So only in this case, you will have some chances for the success, so for the best possible result. Thanks a lot for your attention. See you in next lessons.